Hello, this is Cody channel, and today I'm going to be giving you an astro update for the new moon in Gemini occurring on Friday morning, the 22nd of May. So for this new moon in Gemini, we are being called to look into how we have a symbiotic relationship with all of the planets and really understanding that our connection to the planets is, as the quote says, as above, so below. Understanding how the vibrations are intertwined and are in an infinity symbol with the growth and evolution of humanity. It's so important to work with the moon and to understand your personal astrology. So if you have any questions after this video, feel free to reach out to me. My moon is in Gemini, so I am very experienced with this sort of energy, the vast scope of energy, much like Pisces, except for with Gemini, it is all coming in through the central nervous system. The central nervous system, the hands and the feet, and the inspiration of lungs. Getting inspiration, downloads, cosmic divine channeled downloads. We start off with Gemini season feeling that struggle between the planets going retrograde, squaring planets, a lot of squares, a lot of beautiful trines as well. This energy is potentially skewing certain details and allowing us to be manipulated, especially with the square to Neptune. At this time, the best advice I can give to Gemini, which is pretty much what I had to do myself in order to reach those higher states, was to go into meditation, deep meditation, and use guided meditation when necessary to go back, to reclaim those parts, to soften those parts. This work, for me, works amazingly well, and I've seen it work well for many people. But regardless of what kind of techniques work for you, this energy, especially combining it with the North Node coming in and the Venus retrograde, it is a time for going inwards, right? Retrogrades are not scary. Retrogrades happen all the time. And this just happens to be a Venus in Gemini, which is ruled by duality, ruled by the light and the dark and the shadow, and being 1 foot in Mount Olympus and 1 foot in Hades, or heaven and earth. You know, having that longing for the twin flame, the original twin flame archetype comes from the Gemini mythology. So this longing, this soul level love is not something we speak of for Gemini usually, right? We often focus on sort of the negatives of a lot of signs, especially with a lot of modern astrology. So I want to look into, yes, of course, there are so many problems that are afflicting the Gemini mind, right? Especially because their minds are so open, they can be receiving information and not just kind of parroting it, especially for the first part of their lives, right? The Gemini archetype is parroting information and sort of potentially going down that telephone game or something, and the information ends up being so different from what it actually was meant to be, right? So this year, and especially for this new moon, getting clear, spending time away from social media, away from the TV, putting down your television set for as long as you can would be a great idea. Maybe, I don't know. My favorite funny image of this Gemini archetype, and this will be helpful for the North Node in Gemini, which I will be doing a separate video on, but this is the soul basically of our world will be having to go through a lot of shadow work, a lot of air and connectivity progress being made, a lot of new social media platforms, new outlets for expressing yourself are all coming together. But this retrograde is allowing us to clear out the feelings and the emotions that Gemini rules. So the feelings that we have are actually our subconscious programming and beliefs associated and in response to the emotions that are created and stored in our DNA and in our bodies. So the emotions are something physical that we can measure, whereas the feelings are what Gemini can become a master of. And usually they're a master of, deceiving themselves from their own feelings. But now we have this chance to go inward for the next month and a half, 2 months. Of course, we're still working. Some of us are still, launching things. The only thing I would say is just watch out for just the self-deprecation. Really watch that inner dialogue. This is all things that Gemini wants to bridge. They want to take those light and dark personalities that are part of the shamanic qualities that we have, that we barely understand in the capital patriarchal world, right? So a lot of time and care and meditation and grounding and just sort of restructuring that inner world would be a great idea. I'm not saying that, our lives often have carved that time out for us, right? So we have to kind of do a little extra work, and we will be greatly rewarded because the Gemini in the highest sense is the divine communicator, communicating and channeling wisdom from the divine. And I would love it if most of us could really try, as many of us as possible, to communicate in small groups, channeling thought forms, channeling ideas and visions, and seeing the power of small groups to connect to those extraterrestrials, connect to those benevolent and divine ideas that can help us. We have a trine to Saturn in Aquarius, which will be a great time for us to think big. And in order to think big and to think about how you can fit in this future that seems a little unsure right now, the best thing you can do is really focus on that inner world and lovingly connect yourself to those parts and go through those darker parts and be brave, right? Of course, there's all these conspiracy theories and whatever you want to call them. And if you know me, that's how I ended up kind of getting into taking my power back, was sort of going down that rabbit hole. And I know a lot of people are just starting to go down that rabbit hole now. So I think it's important to ground and to stay focused and understand that the Gemini North Node coming up this year will be potentially misleading, potentially a big push for the new normal and normalizing things, and a lot of funny jokes and things to take our mind off things. And of course we have to laugh, we have to joke, and we also just want to make sure we're not being tricked. Okay, so let's stay focused on that inner world, checking in, understanding the practicality, the psychological parts of your spiritual development that need your attention, and ultimately bridging that connection deeper with your higher self, with the deities or mythical creatures or aliens that you are connecting with. I did pull some cards for the collective that I think are pretty potent. Let me get going on that. So the first one is Sirius, and as you know, the star system Sirius is 13 degrees of Cancer, and the star Sirius, the brightest star, is associated with our ascension, and the closer it gets to the sun is the closer it becomes to the golden age, when we are apparently allowed to shift from 3D to 5D. So this very long journey of Sirius and the sun slowly becoming closer and closer depending on their orbits is associated with ascension. So Sirius apparently has programmed our DNA to allow us for ascension. So DNA is going to be a big theme. Everyone should be really exploring that topic. I believe. I could be wrong. And then also I pulled a rune which is called Tiwaz, and Tiwaz is associated with the North Star, Edelbron, 28 degrees of Gemini. So the North Node will be there soon, and the North Node is really our North Star as far as where our soul needs to learn. So looking into how we can have that Edelbron powerful energy. The North Star is our guiding force, and it's showing us to really learn how to develop a sense of trust within ourselves and to be brave. So then, of course, we are so multifaceted, right? Just like the Gemini. Now there's the High Priestess card for the end. The High Priestess card is a perfect card for Gemini. Gemini is ruled by the Hierophant and the Lovers. But for this reading and for the collective, the High Priestess is asking us to sort of just wait and receive. Sort of like imagine sitting on a rock and meditating in silence until something that feels like the emotions and your feelings are actually connecting and moving energy in the right direction. So I just hope that all of you will be going easy on yourself and will be enjoying yourselves, understanding that you are doing the cosmic dance of transcending polarity on this earth, and you're doing a great job. So thank you so much. And if you guys want to get a better idea of the Gemini archetype, you can read a few of my blog posts I've put out this month, as well as I love the butterfly in The Last Unicorn. He starts off by just parroting off random information, and The Last Unicorn is saying, "Do you know who I am?" And all of a sudden he puts this graduation hat on after this back and forth of just nonsense, and he comes in and just is like, "Yes, you're a unicorn, and there are others, but you're going to have to follow A, B, and C to get there." And it's like you want to channel that inner butterfly of your own. Who is your spirit guide? Who is your spirit animal? Who are your ancestors? Getting to know the connections and trusting the feelings and emotions combining to give you that strength and confidence to go forward and take action based on those. But for the most part, meditate, forgive, and keep an open mind. Thank you so much, and I hope to connect with all of you soon. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.
Be a little respectful, butterfly. Do you know who I am?
Excellent. Well, you're a fishmonger. You're my everything. You are my sunshine. You're old and gray and full of sleep. You're my pickle-faced, consumptive Mary Jane.
Say my name, then.
Rumpelstiltskin. Gotcha.
I should know better than to expect a silly butterfly to know my name.
Unicorn. Old French, unico. Latin, unicornis. Literally one-horned. Unus, one, and cornu, a horn. A fabulous animal resembling a horse with one horn. Visible only to those who search and trust, and generally mistaken for a white mare. Unicorn.
You do know me.